Welcome one and all. It's a lovely day for a visit, and I see by your attire that most of you probably know each other, so let me introduce myself. I'm William Henry Yates. Most folks around here call me Bill, and I invite you to do the same. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in 1820 in western New York State. My father was a grist mill grinder. He had a mill there in western New York State near a town called Rochester. And as a young man, I married my wife Caroline. She was about 13 years my junior, and we had a son, Frank. And when I was 43, I decided I would make my fortune, seek my fortune, at least in Michigan, where land was plentiful and there was a lot of good farming, and there were some rivers that I noticed that could probably turn a wheel and make for a good grist mill. So we set out in 1863 and came here to Michigan, and I had my eye on this river called the Clinton, and when we got here, sure enough, it looked like it would be just perfect for my uses. So we bought 80 acres, 40 acres on either side of the river, and I set up my grist mill. So from 1863 to 1875, about a dozen years, everything went real well with that. And I looked around and I saw that there were a lot of grist mills and there was a lot more competition. And I looked around some more and saw that there were a lot of apple orchards. A lot of the farmers had orchards, and there weren't any mills that were pressing the apples into cider. So I decided to retool my operation and turn it into a apple pressing mill and create some cider. Well, it wasn't very long that people started flocking to my mill and really enjoying my recipe for the cider. Right about that time also, the good men of the Michigan Central Railroad came to me, and they wanted to buy right away. They wanted to to have a line, run some track through my land, and I wasn't opposed to that at all. I knew they were doing it to make some money, and I didn't see any reason why I shouldn't make some money on the whole deal myself. So I made a deal with these gentlemen. I said, sure, I'll let you have the right of way, with one stipulation. Two, actually: that you set up a station, and that secondly, you allow your passenger trains to let their passengers off for enough time for them to walk around, enjoy the scenery, step about a bit, and stop into my station and have a cup of my cider for a price, of course. Business is business after all, and well, Bill Yates wasn't about to miss a chance on something like this. So that all worked very well. They set up their train tracks, and the trains started coming through, and the passengers came in, and things were going very well for me. After a number of years, though, suddenly the train people decided to quit making my stop a stop, and they just had their passengers just come through and went right on to Rochester. They figured that Rochester was so close, there was no need to have two stops so close to each other. Well, I reminded the good men of the Michigan Central that they had a contractual obligation to stop at my place and allow their passengers to come in. So they hemmed and hawed over that for a little bit, but then they came to their senses and realized that that wasn't such a bad deal after all. So things went very well for that, for a long time. For my part, I lived a good long time on this parcel of land. In my 93rd year, I was deemed to be about the oldest man in all of Oakland County, and I shuffled off this mortal coil, and I passed the cider mill on to my son Frank, and then his son took it over, and so there were 3 generations of Yates who operated that cider mill, and I'm mighty proud to say that building is still there, is still pressing the best cider in this area, and my name is still on the building, so mighty proud of that too. That my cider is still being made on the same mill using the same machinery as it did back in my day, and have this opportunity to hand out a coupon from the good folks who still operate the mill, and when you go there, raise a mug for old Bill, and I appreciate your coming today, and thank you so much.